The Truppenübungsplatz Zenne, or the Zenne-Lager training area, was a military training area in Germany near the city of Paderborn. The secret location covered an area of approximately 120 square kilometers. From 1935, the Henschel factory, in conjunction with the German Army's weapons office, operated the Panzerversuchsstation 96 or the Tank Testing Station 96 at this location. This was very important for the Henschel factory because it was much closer to their factory in Kassel than the famous Kummersdorf testing ground. Until the mid-1930s, many experiments and trials took place at the Henschel's Versuchsabteilung, or experimental department, which was also located in Kassel. All the prototypes had to be shipped by train from Kassel, but sometimes they drove under their own power. But at the beginning of 1939, the decision was made to relocate the entire Versuchsabteilung under the leadership of the talented engineer Kurt Arnold to Paderborn. Thus, it would no longer be necessary to drag tanks back and forth. Arnold was given unlimited authority to set up the test station as he saw it fit. The resources to convert the existing buildings and to build the necessary facilities came from the German army. Arnold was a very capable engineer. For example, earlier in the 1930s, he developed a race car on his own. During the war, he carried the long official title Oberingenieur der Panzerversuchs- und Forschungsanstalt Zenne-Lager Übungsplatz, or the senior engineer of the Tank Experimental and Research Institute Zenne-Lager training area. But during the war, he was often simply referred to as Obering, or chief engineer. Numerous prototypes were extensively tested at the Tank Testing Station 96, which included driving tests, shooting tests, and gas tightness tests. In addition, the future German tank crews who were trained at the Zenne-Lager training station were also trained on new tank models by the tank testing station. They were able to familiarize themselves with the latest heavy tank models and take part in the testing. When the Versuchsabteilung moved to its new location, large parts of the training ground were screened off from the rest of the area by wooden fences. In addition, German police officers were permanently present to secure the grounds. Anyone who came near or had any contact with the residents were closely monitored by the Gestapo, the German secret police. This went so far that the Gestapo was gathering intelligence from the pubs and shops to determine if information was being leaked. Probably the most interesting building of the station was the large submersion pool, which was originally built to conduct deep wading trials for the gigantic Maus tank. Arnold was instructed to build a basin able to support a 200-ton tank in September of 1942. To bear the enormous weight of the Maus, the bottom was made of 20 centimeter thick concrete. The dimensions were 18 by 60 meters, and at its deepest point the basin was 7 meters deep. The enormous amount of water, about 2,500 cubic meters, was extracted from a nearby river. In an emergency, it could be emptied in just 10 minutes via 2 drainage points. The construction was completed at the beginning of 1943. Of course, the Panzerversuchsstation 96 mainly contributed to the development of the Tiger tank, but also performed research on other armored fighting vehicles. Apart from this, experimental work on suspension, transmissions, and storage arrangements was also conducted. The facility mainly undertook trials on the Tiger series. Most, if not all, of design changes to the Tiger 1 and 2 went through testing here. The personnel of the Tiger training program at Paderborn worked closely together with the Henschel mechanics and engineers to improve the design. When Arnold was asked why only Henschel had its own proving ground, he replied that other firms producing armored fighting vehicles on a large scale did not believe in building large experimental establishments, as they foresaw an early end to the war and wished to conserve their money. After the military training area initially fell into the hands of the United States Army on the 3rd of April 1945, the British occupying forces took over the military training area on the 1st of August 1945. Only a few days later, the capture of the test site was already described in details in the press. Headlines appeared about the Super Tiger with a 155mm cannon, which of course was the E-100 super heavy tank. The raw armor hull of this tank arrived in June of 1944. A team of only 3 engineers started the construction, but the work progressed very slowly. So the E-100 was basically constructed under the supervision of Arnold and his crew, who all had plenty of experience on the suspension and automotive components of heavy tanks. In early January of 1945, the engine compartment was largely ready, but still missing fuel lines. Because of the war situation, many parts simply did not arrive or were damaged in transit. At the time of its capture in April of 1945, the E-100 suspension was still largely incomplete, and many components had been disassembled from the hull, awaiting the installation of the missing fuel lines. After the war, the partially completed vehicle was taken by the British Army for evaluation and then scrapped in the early 1950s. After the war, Arnold was most helpful to the Allies. He provided a lot of useful information and documents on the developments in the field of tanks and the tests performed at the Versuchsstation. The Allies described him as one of the key people in the German armored fighting vehicle industry. After all barracks in and around Paderborn were taken over by the British Army in 1945, the British built another barracks on the southern edge of the military training area in 1951 to accommodate a tank regiment. By the early 1950s, around 200 apartments for married British soldiers and their families were also built on the military training facility. The military training area continues to be operated today by the British Armed Forces in Germany in Paderborn, which had around 3,000 soldiers stationed there at 4 locations until 2019. On the southern edge of the military training area in Augustdorf is the Field Marshal Rommel Barracks of the Bundeswehr, which is used as a tank training area. I hope you enjoyed this episode, and to make sure you don't miss my future work, please make sure you are subscribed to my channel and press the bell notification button. Thank you, and see you in the next video.